Welcome to the Hope and Optimism podcast series, where we highlight the people and ideas empowering international students to thrive. I'm Kwan, founder of ICOA, career coach for international students.
I'm Betsy Cohen. I have written the book, Welcome to the USA, You're Hired, a guide for foreign-born people seeking jobs. And now I'm a philanthropic futurist with Future Good.
My name is Dania, and I'm a PhD international student at University of Nebraska, Lincoln. I'm originally from Pakistan, and my area of research is in mindfulness-based interventions with early childhood educators.
Amazing team, isn't it? And in this podcast, we will be diving into the uncertainties of the immigration status. Whether you are on F1, J1, H1B or green card, and sharing practical guidance to help ease the risk and fears we are all facing right now. And Betsy will definitely introduce our special guest today, but before that, I would like to take a quick moment to highlight something special about Betsy. Because if you live in or plan to visit St. Louis, Missouri, there is an exciting reason to celebrate. The mayor of St. Louis and the county executive have officially declared April 10 as Betsy Cohen Day. This honor recognizes her 12 years of leadership with the St. Louis Mosaic Project. And just within 1 year between 2022 to 2023, the region's foreign-born population experienced remarkable growth, increasing by 23%. Amazing number. Betsy, your impact on the community has been so incredible, and I have already marked my calendar to celebrate with you every year, every April.
Thank you. I was very honored to receive this recognition for the work that I've done with many of our regional partners in the St. Louis area. It's so important that we've had goals to attract foreign-born people to help grow our region. And international students have been an extremely important part of that growth, not just for their talent, but also for the economic impacts that they bring to our region. So it's been quite an honor.
So important, the work that you have been doing, and it's our honor to have you with us, for me to co-host this podcast alongside with you. And Dania, I know that last week was a special one for you and your fellow Fulbrighters at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh yeah, it was one of the best events that I have ever experienced in my life. I'm working in a UNL Fulbright Association because I am placed here through Fulbright Scholarship Program. In this time, we all came up with this idea of what we can do for international students or maybe on campus to bring some hope and optimism. So we came up with this idea of one of the flagship event that we did last year. So we thought that let's again go with that event and celebrate different cultures that we have on campus. The event name was From Around the World to Nebraska, Global Minds, Midwestern Hearts. So the event was all about celebrating different cultures and giving students due respect and acknowledge their presence on campus. The event was amazing. We ended up having more than 200 attendees in that event. There were multiple performances, cultural showcases. We have UNL Fulbright alumni who are back in their countries, and they recorded their videos to tell us that what kind of impact they're creating back in their countries, or if they're here in United States, how they're impacting the world. Other than that, we have panel discussion about resilience in this time and how students can thrive in this environment. Overall, the event was amazing, but the experience of organizing this event was something that I have carried with me. So thanks for asking.
I think this is such a wonderful example, Dania, of sharing hope and optimism, because we know that you and other international students are feeling not as welcome. And when you have a chance to highlight those cultures, let people be visible, let others see them and appreciate them, that can help build people's self-esteem and feeling of being welcomed, even if some of the messages on a national level don't necessarily feel that way. I'm so proud of you with your Fulbrighters for doing that and bringing that spirit to the campus. Today, though, I would like to speak with a true champion of international students and immigrant communities, Fiona McEntee, the founder of the McEntee Law Group, which is a nationally recognized immigration firm based in Chicago. She's an award-winning lawyer, a passionate advocate for startups and creatives, and a leading expert on O1 visas, EB1A green cards, and pathways that help international talent build their futures in the United States. That is so important. She's also the author of a book called Our American Dream, which is a children's book that celebrates immigrants, and her second book, U.S. Immigration Options for Startups, Accelerate Your American Dream. And we know there are many different ways that startups can get a foothold in our country. But today, she is here to talk with us not only about the challenges, but about the hope, the advocacy, and the resilience that define the international student journey right now in 2025. Fiona, we are so thrilled to have you here. You are so well known. Could you start by sharing a bit about yourself and what inspired your work in immigration law and advocacy for global talent?
Hi, thank you so much for that lovely intro, and thanks for having me on your show. I think, first off, just the name of the show is, I think, really fitting, and I think it's exactly what people need to hear right now. So I commend you all for starting such an initiative, because it really is needed. But my story is that I came to the US as an international student. I initially came on a 1-year J1 exchange as a law student from Ireland. And then I went back home to Dublin and I came back out on an F1 visa and got my law degree, my Juris Doctor. And during my law degree, I started focusing on immigration, worked in a couple of the immigration clinics that were associated with our law school. And yeah, I've been working in immigration ever since. And so it's been nearly 20 years, and that this has been my career to date.
That is quite a good journey, and it shows the depth of your training in immigration, and having experienced the journey yourself gives you a deeper knowledge of how people are feeling, both from the emotions and the facts of what has to be handled. So I think that gives you a double strength in your work, which is terrific. We do see right now, though, that the landscape is shifting, and it's different feeling this year in 2025 than it has been over the past several years. Can you give us a sense of what's happening right now with our international students and what is happening factually and emotionally?
Yeah, you're right to point out that the landscape has shifted. So this is not my first rodeo with the Trump administration. I practiced as an immigration attorney during the previous Trump administration. We've experienced some of this before, but not really what we're seeing right now. And the difference is there are widespread revocations of student visas and status terminations. And I think initially Marco Rubio said that they had revoked 300 student visas, but now I think the reality is it's thousands of student visas. And it seems to be across the US, and often, and for a lot of these students, there are no triggers that would have led them to believe that their status would be at risk. And these are the facts, right? I'm not trying to sway things one way or another. These are people that I've spoken to directly, or some of my colleagues have, and information relating to their background has been put into court proceedings. Some have had no interactions with any type of law enforcement. I spoke to somebody who had a speeding ticket for a few miles over the limit. That was his only ever interaction with law enforcement. We've heard that they're apparently scanning or using AI to look for activism, but some people that I had spoken to had not participated in any way, shape, or form in any type of social justice kind of movements. So it's deeply concerning, and there has been quite a lot of litigation that we've seen already, and I think we're going to see more of that.
It's also important to realize that we have over 1 million international students in general in the country. And again, while we're seeing 1,000 or 2,000 of these various incidents right now, it's still it's a small number, but it is going to be paralyzing to 1 million people, even if it's affecting 1,000. So I think it's important to look at the scope as well. You have written about this. What is some of the advice that you have shared with others?
Yeah, I think your first point is really valid. And I was at a dinner last week where we were discussing all sorts of things, including this with people who didn't work in immigration. And so they were asking me, are we talking 10 people? Is it like 100? Like, how many people are we talking about? And you can talk about the percentage, right? Okay, it is a smaller chunk of the population, but it's the impact on the group as a whole. And it is that chilling effect. And it's also the fact that regardless of how many people we're talking about, there is a process that students, they're entitled to due process, and they're not getting it at the moment. That's, I think, needs to be said, because and certainly I think this will impact the US in both the short, medium, and the long term, in terms of like international students wanting to come here, or parents outside the US wanting to send their children to the US. It absolutely will have a chilling effect. As far as what the advice is, there really is no substitute for getting direct legal advice for your situation, just to see, were there any triggers? If there weren't any triggers, what options do you have in general, regardless of how you ended up here? And it could be really try to get your status reinstated. That is an option that potentially would be available, filing with you to try to get your status reinstated. Leaving the US is an option. And I spoke to somebody and he had his bags packed and he said, I'm out of here. He was leaving, going back to Europe. He was almost graduating and just did not want to deal with this at all. So he left. Or the other option is litigation. And this is what we have seen quite a lot of throughout the US. There have been many court orders. Courts have issued temporary injunctions, essentially requiring the government to put the students back in the position they were in before they terminated their status. So that's a temporary form of relief. And so we just have to wait and see what will happen with these cases. But there are a lot of them, and there will be more. I would suspect more are going to be filed, because people are seeing that this is an effective option. So, yeah.
So how can the students themselves be prepared and stay calm? And maybe Dania would also like to talk about what she's seeing as international students are having to think about hiring an immigration attorney or taking legal measures. How do they manage this both factually and emotionally to be calm enough to manage this process?
Yeah, I think that's a really hard thing to do, because I know how much people have put on the line to be in the US as international students. It's costing a lot of money, and international students often pay full tuition, which in turn helps to subsidize American students. And obviously, that was some of the contributions that you were alluding to, Betsy, about just the impact that they bring economically as well to the US. There's a lot on the line for them, and it is very hard to be calm, especially when you don't know if your friend has had this letter and they don't have any criminal convictions, and you're trying to see, I don't either, but they didn't. It's hard to know who's going to be safe or who might end up being targeted. So it is a hard thing to do, but I guess from my point of view, having worked in the prior Trump administration, I think initially a lot of our colleagues, or I guess I'll speak for myself, didn't do a great job of handling it. I think that I was trying to be like everything to everybody. I had really young kids at the time, and it was all consuming, and it definitely caused a lot of stress for me, and I think some of my colleagues too. But I've spent the past 8 years really working on myself, and just thinking about like things like therapy, resources, like mental health. Like, I know you were talking about just other breathing and different activities and things like that we can do. And I think that it is super important, because we're only a few months into the Trump administration, and we have quite a long road ahead. And I think it's important that if you try to just do whatever you can to, I think, take care of yourself, because it's going to be a long road ahead.
So, Dania, the students have a lot of obligations for your work, for your studies, for the research. How do you see your colleagues managing to have anxiety at the same time as being prepared to stay calm and do their work? What do you see?
Betsy, it varies from student to student and nationality to nationality. What I have noticed, for instance, I have one of my student and he has history of some speeding tickets and other traffic rule violation. But those violation, he was sharing about his experience of feeling too much anxiety and experiencing panic attack, and he was not going to classes, meeting anybody. He locked himself up in the apartment. He showed up on the Fulbright event day because that was the only thing I could ask him to come and sit with us. Other than that, his condition was really miserable. For instance, if I talk about myself, I have too many responsibilities. I teach, I work in association, we were working on event, and I'm taking 4 courses this semester. So there is something going on inside of you and it is impacting your ability to work. You cannot even share it with other people like our advisors or supervisors. What they will say, oh yeah, we understand. But the thing is that you have to do work. You cannot stop yourself doing the work. Sometimes I like, yes, they say they understand and they feel it, but I know on campus who want some kind of output from us, they would give us some kind of margin. Then we would have some students, just like I mentioned about this thing of what country they are from. If they have a strong support back in their home, then it means that going back would not impact them that much. But what about some of the students who have sacrificed a lot of things and who have not a lot of resources back in their home countries? What is going to be their future? So a lot of uncertainty is also because of the support system and the financial support that they have back in their homes. All of these things together impact students differently. And then we have students with different personalities, different level of resilience. Coping mechanisms are different from person to person. But overall, I feel like at this point, I don't think so that any of the international students would say that they are not feeling stress or anxious about whatever is going on. Everybody is experiencing some level of stress, anxiety for everything that is going on.
I think your point about their home countries can also make a big difference is a really interesting one, because the international students are not one homogeneous group. They have many different backgrounds, needs, financial, as well as country issues that have to be managed. Let's go to another topic about how does a student or advisors or the universities speak up? How do they use their voice right now, even when it's hard? Obviously, students are wondering, can they speak up? Can they be their authentic self? Fiona, what would you say to international students about either speaking up or bringing viewpoints more into a public mode?
Oh, Betsy, that's a tough question to answer. I can tell you that there's free speech here. There should be free speech for everybody in the US, regardless of their immigration status. But I'm also seeing what's playing out in the news with some of these high profile, I guess, cases that have received a lot of media attention. And we see with the Tufts University student who wrote an op-ed, my friend is actually representing her. And so you see all these things, and I think people need to be cautious. And that really hurts me to say this, because I've always been a big advocate for social justice, for having integrity and like doing what's right, like for myself and speaking up for others. But I don't know that international students can do that right now, because this administration is basically looking at people who are, they're making kind of determinations about speech and about what they deem to be anti-American or anti-foreign policy. And it just is not what we have seen before. So I would be extremely reluctant to advise international students to take any type of stance like that in a public forum. or online, because we just don't know with this administration. And I think truly this is probably what they intend. They want this, so they want this chilling effect. But I would say on the flip side, some of us have privilege of US citizenship. Or if there's universities, there is strength in numbers. And so there are positions that could be taken there. So I think for me personally, I have always spoken out for international students, but I'm a naturalized US citizen now. So it is different. But I think those of us that are able to speak out, there's even more reason why we should, because those that are being directly impacted by this are not in a position to do.
Do you think that social media as well as in person are both important for those who can be allies and advocates? Or how do you see that for the international students themselves?
So for like other advocates, I think this is where people need to do what what they can, and that's an individual assessment. I think going back to what I was saying about the last time this happened with the first Trump administration, I felt like I had to do everything, and it was burning me out, right? So I felt like I had to go to every protest. I brought my kids to protests. I was litigating. I was at O'Hare Airport with the Muslim ban. I was doing all media interviews. Like, I was doing everything. And that just wasn't sustainable and it wasn't healthy. And so I just realized this time I'm going to do what I can in a way that is putting my own oxygen mask on first. For me, almost every day of our work is like a protest. We're actively resisting the administration. We're helping people who want to come here or stay here. And so for us, it's maybe I don't make it to the weekend protests because I just need a bit of a downtime with my kids, right? So I think we all need to get some balance as well. And you can't be everything to everybody. So I would say pick a forum or something that feels comfortable for you to do. And I just think it's okay if you don't do everything. What I'm doing now is a lot of media interviews, both national and international, and doing a lot of online stuff. But I'm probably not spending my Saturdays at protests just because I need some time for me and my kids.
Do you think that the international students need to be careful when they're communicating back with their family members, either in WhatsApp, text? How should they handle those communications?
We know that if you're entering the US, as if you're at the airport, for example, and you are coming through immigration inspection, your devices are subject to search. And that is absolutely the case for visa holders and visitors. The same is somewhat true for US citizens and green card holders, although they have arguably more rights at there. But in this situation, we're talking about international students. So your devices can be subject to search. So you need to be aware of kind of all your communications there. I think WhatsApp, text messages, things like that are stored on your device. So yeah, we wrote a blog post on this, just letting people know what may happen. And of course, they're not going to search every single person's device, but you don't know that you're not going to be that person who ends up getting selected for additional screening. So I just think people need to be aware of that.
Dania, do you think that the students are aware that they should be careful even communicating with friends and family?
Oh, yeah. This is the only thing that I feel like students are getting cautious about, is that not to speak openly the way they used to speak before, because Fiona is very right that at this point, we are not very much sure about the reasons, and there are so many policy changings that are going on. So all of the students are helping each other in advocating this thing of not speaking too much on social media forum, and then supporting each other face to face when we meet instead of raising our voices on social media. Also on campus, we had this week especially dedicated to have different meetup activities with the international students that university is hosting, and they're providing us some safe space to come and then share with each other about different kind of fears that they're experiencing or any other thing. But yes, there is too much of the advocacy that is being given to international students to not use social media forum to show up how much resentment they have within them, or maybe how much insecurities they have, or maybe saying anything against the government or any other body that can be a threat to them in future.
That makes sense in today's climate. That pathway from visa stress to career dreams and what that is going to mean going forward. Let's talk about how managing the work authorization, job search, staying in the US after graduation. How is that looking a little bit different right now, Fiona? What are you seeing with that process?
I think it depends on your situation. From our point of view, we had a lot of H-1B lottery registrations this year. I think that there is an understanding by a large group in the US that international students are an extremely talented bunch. They often study in key fields where there aren't enough US workers, including computer science, AI, and fields. So, from our point of view, we're absolutely still seeing employers want to sponsor and keep their international students. That's certainly something that we're seeing still happening.
What's the best way to assure an employer that hiring an international student is still a good decision right now if an employer is wavering on that?
We're not in the business of guarantees. We just can't ethically guarantee anything. We can't guarantee an outcome. We can't guarantee selection in a lottery. All we can do is basically, and I think we often do not have to convince employers that this is a good decision, that they generally have already made up their mind that this is something that they want to do, and they see the value in having a diverse workforce. We in our firm have people from all over the world working with us, and it's just incredible, and it makes me really excited to come into the office every day to just have that team, people bringing this great perspective. We're all very mission aligned, but we're all very different, and I think it just only adds to a workforce. So a lot of times employers, they already understand that, and they just want to know what they can do to support their staff. And so we will walk them through the immigration piece. But unfortunately, we can't guarantee that anybody's going to be able to stay here. That's not something that we can do, but we can guarantee them that we will do whatever we can to try to make that happen. We just can't guarantee an outcome one way or another.
I think that's interesting that you can't guarantee, but you can work to make it happen. I do wonder, though, if there may be some employers that change their mind. The woman is originally from India. She's on an H-1B, and the employer told her that they'll keep her on the H-1B, but they won't renew it. So now she has to think about transferring that and finding another employer. This uncertainty is going to be a challenge. How do you think that an employee can reassure that employer that sponsorship is still a good idea if that uncertainty is weighing on the employer?
My advice has always been for international students to try to just get their foot in the door and just to prove themselves, because you're already dealing with a population that has gone through a lot to be here. So in my opinion, you have the creme de la creme of talent here in the US. It's not easy to study as an international student in the US. You have to be extremely resourceful, determined. You have to have all your stuff in order. You need to start planning months and months ahead of time. It's just a hard thing to do. And so once you've been able to get your student visa, you come here, you study, people work really hard. They know that their families have sacrificed a lot and that there is a lot on the line and there's a lot of potential for them. And so I think they just need an opportunity to just prove themselves. And certainly that's how I felt as an international student. Was like, I will work harder than anybody. I had been just really passionate about immigration and have proven that it made sense for me to stay on post international student visa. Our firm now has a team of like 25 employees. So I've gone from initially being an international student and then turning into an employer and hiring a bunch of like Americans and other people here in the firm. So I think from my point of view, they just need that opportunity to get their foot in the door. And I think as an international student, looking into programs like CPT can be a great way to just have a low barrier to entry. Obviously, the situation that you described is different because that's somebody who had already been working there and had proven themselves, and unfortunately the employer changed their mind or whatever reason they had for not renewing the H1B. And obviously that's a shame. But for that person, I'm sure for every one of those employers, there are a lot of other ones that absolutely do want to hire international students or just people in different visa statuses. So I wouldn't get deterred by the no's. And I think that if I tell people this, if I listened to the first no that I got, I probably would have moved back to Ireland 20 years ago. So there will always be people that will tell you no. And I think you can look for the people that will help you get to a yes. Just don't stop at the first no that you get.
Yes, I think that resilience is something so important. Let's talk about the university advisors, the people that work with international students. What do you think they are missing right now in terms of supporting the international students, both in their work and in their job, career, interviewing process? What are the advisors missing right now that you can tell them they should step it up?
Ooh, gosh, I don't know. I work with a lot of the advisors. I know a lot of them are doing all they can. I think it's hard for them too, because a lot of us that work in this field do it because it's a personal vocation almost for us. You find that like, people are drawn to working in immigration because of the cause, and that both on the advisor point as well as like an immigration attorney point of view. I'm sure everybody on this call has this like connection to immigration, and we feel drawn to helping others in this way. So I think they probably have a high amount of empathy there. They build relationships up with these international students over the years, and they really see the value in them, and they know how hard it is for international students. Just in any given year, it's hard to be an international student because there is just uncertainty ahead. Imagine how people are feeling now, right? And so I think that they are doing, at least the ones that I know are doing all they can as well. I think that getting international students in crisis, which is what we're dealing with, those that are in this like immigration crisis, having access to attorneys that are local who can advise them on their options, I think is important, especially if we're talking about some of these lawsuits, litigation that would likely be happening in your jurisdiction. But yeah, I think recognizing that they are probably taking a lot on as well, and that this is also probably impacting them too.
Dania, what do you think? Is there something that you wish the international advisors would be doing a little bit more of? I think that this legal support is one, but is there something else, Dania, that you think could be added to the support and empathy that the international student advisors are doing?
Mhm. Uh, but see, in these times of rising uncertainty, what many advisors might often miss is feeling how emotionally and mentally drained international students are feeling these days. We are not only navigating a rigorous academic system, which is again in a second language for us, but we are also dealing with visas insecurities and all the things that we are discussing, like fears of sudden policy changings and feeling like we are constantly on edge. I have heard about students who have their visas revoked without reasons. And also one of my own Fulbright friend, he missed his flight at airport because he was kept under investigation for 2 hours. All these things together, and personally, I remember how unsettling it felt reading different news about heightened immigration enforcement while trying to prepare for my own finals. This is the final month of our semester. We organized an event that was meant to build community. And even during those things, we kept thinking, what if I'm next or any of my friend would be next? What if something I say or do unintentionally during the event or maybe on campus or maybe with anybody put me at risk considering that I am an expressive person? So it's an emotional roller coaster for us. What we need the most during these days is someone who can slow down and listen to us, not just to our achievements, but also to our fears. We don't expect our advisors to have all the answers, but we want them to have empathy, reassurance, and cultural understanding or awareness. It can also go a long way. I feel like we are not just students who are trying to build a life here during a time when that life feels so uncertain. And I personally feel like I'm lucky to have those professors who noticed me and found that I'm feeling emotionally drained or feeling fearful. And they took care of me and asked me all those questions, and it made a difference in my life. So I feel like coming support from them would be a really big thing for international students.
Yeah. Betsy, can I just add one quick thing?
Yes.
At the university level, like outside of the International Students Advisor, I think seeing advocacy from some of the universities is encouraging. And I think hopefully we will see more of that, whether it's joining some of the litigation, submitting amicus briefs, basically in support of the international students and some of the litigation. So if the international students advisors are in a position to escalate this up to leadership within the university as a whole, I think that's really important, because obviously the support of the words and to be there is helpful and to listen, but also action is helpful too. And seeing, especially as we were talking about the privileged position of having US citizenship, or like the weight of the support of a university is, I think, really critical. So seeing more of that, I think, would be very helpful for the international students.
Yeah, in
Yes.
addition to that, Betsy, I want to also second what Fiona was saying was about the role of mental health expert on campus. For instance, we have that facility available that provides psychological counseling for students. We need those, and some of them are international, some of them are those who work with international students, or maybe their own who were also internationals when they come to United States. So maybe they will understand our condition better. So just providing those kind of spaces for students to come and speak up if they cannot share those things on social media, and giving them that space to express their fear, their anxieties would be a big help for international students.
I agree. And before we take a few audience questions, I do want to just ask what you do see as a sign of hope. And for myself, I actually had made a note that what I do see as a sign of hope is the universities and colleges pushing back with these legal challenges right now. And I see them joining together. And so that really is something that has given me a sign of hope. So, Fiona, what would be a sign of hope that you're seeing in addition to that? And then we'll share a few audience questions.
Yeah, so I would echo that. And I would also say I always get hope from my immigration lawyer community. I just think there's nobody that you would want to have your back more than a bunch of really passionate, smart, committed, determined, and resilient immigration lawyers. So I'm constantly getting hope and inspiration from my colleagues.
For me, I would feel like, yes, there is so much going on, but you feel more grounded and you feel more strong when you have a lot of things going on outside of you. Then it's like a thing where you can strengthen your abilities and strengthen your core for my personal level. For the societal level, or while being in the community of international students, I feel like the support that we are getting now from each other was again a sign of hope. We are standing for each other, we are supporting each other. I don't think so we can do it if we would not have those kind of circumstances. Everybody would be busy in their lives. But now we have students, both American students and international students, who are taking care of each other, which is a sign of hope and a good thing that I am noticing in these times.
I like that. There are two questions that came in that I want to ask Fiona. One is from a international student that is currently on an H-1B now, working as an engineer, looking to get the H-1B extended. They have a family, they depend on their visa status. What are backup plans that people should think about, like preparing for alternate visa opportunities, or how backup plans could be arranged or thought about at this point in time?
This is going to really depend. I hate to be that lawyer that says it depends, but it does, because everybody's situation is different. A H-1B is a great visa in the sense that it can be transferred by filing a transfer of a change of employer from one employer to another. But I would want to ask this person, what type of backup plan are you imagining? Is it a backup plan because you lose your job? Is it a backup plan because you're worried about some type of enforcement action? If so, I'm not sure what other option you would probably be faced with the same situation, regardless of what visa you were on. So I would want to know more about what kind of worst case scenarios are they envisioning, basically, and try to see, could we come up with a plan B? An option that we do often in our firm is the O1 Extraordinary Ability Visa. So we have a lot of experience with this. Now, it is an employer-sponsored visa. The standard is high. It requires you looking at a list of criteria and checking 3 out of an 8 boxes if it's the 1A. So it's not going to work for everybody, but it can potentially work for some people. There's also some green card options that people could look at. I think a green card gives the most amount of stability from changes in employment. It obviously is not as we've seen from some of the pretty high profile cases that we've seen, this government is taking enforcement action against green holders. So it's not going to protect you from everything, but it would be something that, in terms of losing your job and stuff like that, you wouldn't necessarily have to try to get free your visa, switch it straight away. But it just really depends on your situation. I would definitely need to speak to this person individually.
I also do like your comment about the O visas, because I do think sometimes when an individual looks at that list of 8, when people look at that list, they can often start to think if they need to become a judge, if they need to write papers, but they need to be preparing. So to your point, everything is going to be individual, but there are things that can be done in preparations. I guess the last question would be, if there's a student advisor, what are the steps if an international student calls and says that their visa has been revoked? What steps do they need to take?
People have been getting those calls. They've been getting emails from ICE saying that the SEVIS record has been terminated, or the international student has been getting emails sometimes themselves. And one thing I just want to point out, which to me was extremely disturbing, I was on the phone with an international student and she was reading out an email that she'd received from the Department of State. And in the email, the State Department was actually threatening her with deportation to a third country. And that was in the email from the State Department saying, just so you know, we can send you back to a country other than your own, which is so scary for international students to get. And this person had a minor traffic thing. It wasn't even anything significant. She was so frightened by this. But as an international student advisor, really they need to speak to an immigration lawyer, and ideally somebody that is in the state that they're in, because depending on their situation, the remedy may be litigating in federal court. And that's not going to be an option for everybody. Just depends. Like certain lawsuits were focused on plaintiffs, so international students with similar set of facts, right? And that might not be a magic solution for everybody, but I think speaking to an attorney to assess that and see whether that is an option for you, I think would be the plan for the international advisor.
I think those are great ideas. And I think what I get a sense of optimism about is that resources, the universities, immigration lawyers, the community is stepping up to see exactly what needs to be done, having plans, bringing resources, and there will be alignment that there needs to be support. So I just want to, Fiona, give big thanks to you for your knowledge, for your resources, for your caring, for the way that you have helped the community. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Kwan.
Could I just add one tiny thing, if that's okay? In addition to obviously taking action when somebody has contacted you about a student visa being revoked, there are ways to be proactive as well. So thinking about what advice are we giving to international students that are going to be traveling internationally? Are they prepared for the travel? Are they prepared for inspection on return to the US? So I just think that maybe there's ways that we can be a little bit proactive and just see, okay, maybe this person shouldn't travel. And just to, I think, be proactive would probably be helpful too.
That's really wonderful. Yes, being proactive is so important as advisors. The past 2 weeks, I've been calling international students to make sure that they are okay and providing those simple advice as much as I can, and making sure that they have the contacts of skilled immigration attorneys in their back pocket. So thank you so much for this meaningful conversation. Fiona, your expertise and advocacy are exactly what the community needs right now. So thank you so much for being so generous with your time and knowledge. And Dania, your voice really brought such an important perspective and reminding us what this all feels like through the eyes of an international student. So thank you for sharing. And to make today's conversation more actionable, I have broken down the advice that we hear today into two important areas, one for international students and one for the university professionals who are supporting them. First, let us look into 5 points that international students can do right now. Number 1, act quickly. If your visa is at risk, seek reinstatement through USCIS, consider leaving the US, or consult with an immigration attorney. But you have to act quickly, seek advice. Okay? Number 2, be cautious. Avoid risking public and online statements. Right now, you have to be very careful, especially with all the digital communications. Those can be searched. Number 3, very important, take care of your mental health. Stay connected. Avoid isolation and recognize that stress is normal and everyone now sharing what you are having right now. Then number 4, let's plan strategically. If you're still looking for a job in the US, use CPT early to build your career pathways. Some employers are still supporting H-1B filings. That's the great news that we got from Fiona. And the last one, communicate wisely. Be mindful when discussing some sensitive issues with friends and family through digital device. And for university advisors, I have listed 6 important points that we got from Fiona today. Definitely the proactive one is part of them. And the first one is also offer legal referrals. Connect your students to local immigration attorneys quickly if anything happens. And also lead with empathy. Acknowledge emotional stress that your students are facing right now. Not just talking about academic concerns, but look into what they are feeling. Also advocate internally, escalate student concerns to university leadership, speak up, be their voice when they cannot speak up like before. Also, support their mental health, making sure you understand that not all international students are the same. They have different cultures, so be very culturally informed and create safe spaces, foster connection, trust among international students. Fiona, Dania, anything else I'm missing here for key takeaways?
I don't think so. I think you did a great job of summarizing it. I just think maybe just to know that there are so many people that are here for you and that we're all doing everything we can to be the best advocates and friends and supporters for you.
Wonderful. That's so true. I really appreciate your presence today, Fiona. And for our audience, if you'd like to learn more what Fiona and her team is doing, please make sure to follow her advocacy work at McEntee Law Group. I will share the link to her website in the caption below. Now, this is the part that I am so looking forward to. In the previous episode, Dania introduced us to the nostril breathing, a calming, straightforward technique. I'm so looking forward to another simple technique that you're going to share with us. Dania, all yours.
All right. So today, the mindfulness technique that we will practice, it is called 5-finger breathing mindfulness technique. So let's take the next few minutes to slow down and connect with our breath. To begin, hold out one hand in front of you like a star. Fingers spread apart. Now take the index finger of your other hand. You can use either left hand or right hand, it's up to you. And get ready to slowly trace around the fingers of your outstretched hand. Let's start at the base of your thumb. Take a few breaths in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Now we will start at the base of our thumb. As we slowly trace up the side of our thumb, take a deep breath in, nice and steady. Fill your lungs completely. Breathing out. Now, as we trace down to the other side of our thumb, breathe out slowly. Feel your body soften. Now we move on to our index finger. Move up, move up. Nice and easy. Exhale and trace down. Let any tension melt away. Now we will trace our middle finger. When we will trace up, we will inhale our breath. Breathe in and breathe out from the other side of the middle finger. Notice the coolness of the air that when you breathe in, your ring finger. Let all the stress go away. Breathe in through your ring finger and then breathe out to the other side of the finger. Breathe in through your pinky finger and breathe out completely on the other side of your finger. Let this last breath be a sigh of relief. Breathe out. When you finish tracing all of your 5 fingers, gently rest your hands in your lap, or maybe you can put your hand on your heart. Take a moment to notice how you feel. Take one more slow, deep breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Feel that maybe you are experiencing more calmness, more present. Just notice. Whatever it is, it's okay. You are safe. You are grounded. You are protected. Whenever you are ready, you can open your eyes. This hand mindfulness, it's a very simple but it's very powerful way to anchor ourselves in present moment. When we focus on the sensations of our own hands, like tracing fingers or maybe feeling some gentle pressure on our hands, we engage both our mind and our body, making it easier to calm our racing thoughts and reduce the stress. This practice is especially helpful because it is always accessible. It's easy to remember and it's suitable for all ages. Whether it's you are in a classroom or work or during any stressful moment, this hand mindfulness offers a quick and effective way to feel more grounded and in control.
Wow. You asked us how we're feeling. I feel very calm with this practice. Very simple. Like when we go to the gym too, we have been taught to stretch our hand, right? And with mindfulness, just touching and pulling our finger through our hand together with the breathing. This is so helpful exercise. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. And in our next episode, we will feature Linga Lebo, Director of International Student Success at Syracuse University. Her team was recognized for the International Student Success Module, an initiative that supports international students' first-year transition and beyond through targeted academic and career advising. We're going to bring her here and talk about how we can adjust the international student success model that she has to the current situation. So be sure to subscribe at icoa.com/subscribe and follow us with #ICOA Coaching. Thank you so much, Fiona, for being on the show with us. Betsy, Dania, for being such a wonderful co-host. Until next time, everyone, take care and stay hopeful.